If you've ever felt like your emotions are being hijacked by a rude comment, someone's silence, a rejection you didn't see coming, then this is for you. 9 Stoic Truths to Free You from Emotional Slavery isn't just a title. It's a toolkit, a shift, a way out of the cycle where other people's behavior dictates your inner world. In the next few minutes, you'll learn how Stoic wisdom, ancient but timeless, can help you detach from what doesn't serve you, master your reactions, and finally reclaim the calm that's always been yours. These aren't abstract theories. They're principles you'll recognize in daily life, from a friend's cold shoulder to that coworker who always has something slick to say. So don't just listen once. Come back to this again. Bookmark it. Let it sink in slowly, because mastery doesn't come from exposure. It comes from repetition. Practice one idea each day, and you'll notice you're less reactive, more grounded, and harder to shake. And if this resonates, do one powerful thing. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next step on your journey, and drop a quick comment. I'm reclaiming my peace. That's it. One line. Let's build a space for clarity together. 1. You are not triggered by the world. You are triggered by what you seek from it. You don't lose control because the world is cruel. You lose control because your peace depends on something outside of you, and that something is fragile. Every time someone ignores your message and you feel anger bubble up, it's not their silence that triggers you. It's the unspoken need underneath, the desire to be seen, to be acknowledged, to matter. And that desire, it holds your emotions hostage. The truth is, you're not angry at the world. You're enslaved by your attachments to how the world should treat you. This is where Stoic mindset training begins. The moment you realize your reaction comes not from reality, but from your unmet craving for validation, you're halfway to freedom. Most people don't know what's driving them. They chase approval, they cling to outcomes, they need constant reassurance. And when life doesn't deliver, they break down. But what if you could train your mind to let go of that need? What if you could wake up and say, today, I will act with integrity, regardless of how others behave? That's the first brick in building your emotional fortress. It's how you start mastering emotional self-control, not by avoiding people, but by removing the invisible leash they have on your feelings. Now here's the shift. Don't seek silence, applause, or understanding. Seek inner clarity. Because when your identity no longer depends on others' reactions, you become mentally unbreakable. A person who needs nothing can never be manipulated. You don't have to become numb or cold. You simply stop outsourcing your peace. This is not about pretending. It's about releasing. Release the script you secretly wrote for others. Release the fantasy of how conversations should go. Release the idea that you can only be happy if others behave the way you hoped. You are not at the mercy of your circumstances. You are at the mercy of your expectations. This kind of mindset doesn't come from motivation or positive talk. It comes from daily discipline, from choosing again and again to prioritize internal order over external approval. That's what builds mental toughness. That's how you stop overthinking. Because clarity comes when you stop craving. When your peace becomes non-negotiable, you become the calm in the storm. Not because life is easy, but because you finally stopped asking life to be easy. And that is when emotional freedom begins. 2. Every insult is just a reflection, not a definition. When someone insults you, it's tempting to react. Maybe you feel the urge to explain, to fight back, to prove them wrong. But here's the truth. Most insults say far more about the person throwing them than the person receiving them. An insult is often a mirror, not a message. It reflects the emotional chaos, insecurity, or unresolved frustration of the one speaking. If someone called you a window or a toaster, you wouldn't blink. Why? Because it holds no emotional weight. But if they say you're lazy, selfish, or fake, something stirs inside. Not because it's true, but because part of you might fear it could be. This is exactly where the Stoic mindset steps in. Not to suppress that reaction, but to examine it with clarity. Ask yourself, is this insult revealing something real about me, or is it just noise from someone else's unresolved mess? The disciplined mind doesn't absorb every word. It filters, it studies, and more importantly, it detaches. The goal isn't to win an argument or gain their respect. It's to maintain your identity, rooted in self-awareness, not external validation. You are not defined by someone's bad day, their bitterness, or their desperate need to feel superior. You are defined by what you choose to believe about yourself. Emotional self-control isn't silence out of fear. It's stillness out of strength. When someone throws verbal punches, you don't need to swing back. You simply need to decide, does this deserve my energy? Often it doesn't. People who insult are often revealing their own lack of discipline. Their need to control others with words shows they can't control themselves. And when you understand this, you stop taking it personally. Their voice becomes background noise, not a command. That's the essence of Stoic emotional freedom. The power to stand calm in chaos. You begin to build mental toughness, not by hiding from insult, but by refusing to be shaped by it. So remember this: you are not who they say you are. You are who you consistently choose to be. Let their insults bounce off your discipline. Let your silence be your strength. And let their opinion dissolve in the face of your unshakable self-respect. Because in the end, it's not what they say, it's how you respond that defines you. 3. You do not owe the world a reaction. In a world obsessed with instant replies, sharp comebacks, and emotional outbursts, silence has become the rarest form of strength. Everywhere you look, people are reacting, not responding. Reacting, triggered by a tweet, a comment, a sideways glance. But when you live like that, you become a puppet. Your peace is no longer yours, it's controlled by whoever speaks the loudest. The truth is, you do not owe the world a reaction. Not every provocation needs to be answered. Not every insult deserves to be acknowledged, and not every negative emotion should be expressed. That's not cowardice, that's power. Power rooted in emotional self-control. The very heart of the Stoic mindset. When you let every insult pull your strings, you're not living, you're performing. Performing for likes, for approval, for the ego that constantly whispers, you must respond or they'll think they've won. But this is a mental trap, one designed to keep you reactive, fragile, and easy to manipulate. Instead, the Stoic path calls you inward, toward stillness, toward clarity. It teaches you that discipline is not about suppression, it's about intelligent restraint. You pause, you assess, and most importantly, you choose. You choose whether that situation, that person, that moment is even worthy of your energy. Most of the time, it's not. That's how you build inner strength. By stopping the emotional loop before it hijacks your mind. By realizing that detachment isn't apathy, it's wisdom in motion. When you stay calm, you're not letting them win. You're showing you've already won the battle within. This mindset doesn't just give you peace, it gives you power. The kind that doesn't shout, it doesn't explain, it just acts with purpose, rooted in discipline and grounded self-respect. And when you do respond, if you choose to, it's not out of emotional chaos, but from deliberate calm. That's the difference between reaction and response. One is born from insecurity, the other from intention. People might call your silence weakness, but in truth, it's a declaration. I control me. You don't. In that moment, you break free from the cycle. You stop being predictable. You become grounded, unshakable, unbreakable, because you've chosen mastery over validation, peace over pride. So the next time the world demands your outrage, remember this: the strongest move is often the one you don't make. 4. You suffer most from the story you tell yourself. The real pain rarely lies in the event, it lies in the meaning we assign to it. That's the brutal truth most people overlook. You didn't suffer because someone criticized you. You suffered because your mind whispered, maybe they're right. You didn't lose sleep because she didn't reply. You spiraled because your mind screamed, she must not care. This is the silent war the Stoics warned us about. The mental prison we build when we mistake a passing moment for a permanent truth. Every thought has power. Every inner comment creates momentum. And most suffering? It isn't the result of failure or rejection or disappointment. It's the result of the story you told yourself afterward, the narrative you spun alone in your head while the world kept moving. That's why daily discipline isn't just about routines. It's about mastering your internal dialogue, about catching that first false thought before it cascades into chaos. The Stoic mindset teaches that nothing has meaning unless we give it meaning. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The untrained mind attaches identity to every event. I failed the meeting. I must be a failure. She left me. I must be unlovable. But these are not truths. These are emotional reflexes disguised as conclusions. If you don't challenge the story, you submit to it. If you don't train your mind to question its own narration, you'll keep falling for its emotional sabotage. And here's the twist. You can't wait until chaos hits to begin rewriting your internal script. It has to be daily work, quiet work, intentional reflection. When something stings, stop and ask, is this fact or fiction? You'll be surprised how often it's fiction. You'll notice how often you added a plot that never existed. That's how overthinking becomes a thief. That's how identity loops are formed. But the solution is always the same. Slow down. Edit the script, rewrite the frame. You are not at the mercy of your thoughts. You are the author of them. That's not motivational fluff. It's mental toughness training. It's clarity over chaos. It's the difference between being reactive and being resilient. The moment you stop believing every story your mind creates is the moment you begin to take control. Real freedom isn't in what happens, it's in what you choose to believe about it. 5. You are only hurt when the ego is involved. The truth is, most of what wounds us emotionally doesn't strike at our core. It bruises the image we've constructed. It's not your soul that breaks when you're insulted, ignored, or misunderstood. It's your ego, that mental structure obsessed with how you're perceived, praised, or positioned. Think about it. When someone criticizes you, what actually hurts? Is it the validity of their words? Or is it the collapse of the identity you've attached yourself to? The part of you that says, I should be admired, I must be right, I deserve recognition. That's where the real suffering lies. It's in the gap between how you see yourself and how others reflect you. That gap is filled with ego. And the more you feed that image, the more fragile your peace becomes. The Stoics understood this long before we did. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that other people's opinions are not his concern. Epictetus warned against confusing our roles with our essence. Your ego says, defend your name, but your deeper self, your disciplined self, is asking, why does this matter? The pain you feel from a rude comment, a dismissive tone, a silent room, it often comes not from the action itself, but from the meaning your ego gives it. You interpret it as rejection, disrespect, or inferiority because the ego needs validation to survive. But here's the path to peace. Detach from the need to be seen a certain way. Detach from the craving to be right, applauded, or admired. When you stop defending the costume, you start finding your core. Real strength isn't found in your ability to clap back, prove yourself, or look unbothered. It's in the quiet clarity that no external opinion can rewrite your internal truth. You become calm, unshaken, disciplined. Not because others approve of you, but because their approval is no longer your fuel. Every time you feel triggered, ask, what part of me is being touched? Is it my true self, or the image I created to win approval? Emotional resilience isn't the absence of feeling. It's the refusal to let your ego hijack your response. It's the trained mind saying, that's not me. That's just a reaction trying to protect an illusion. Let it go. The moment you stop needing to be seen as strong is the moment you become unbreakable. That's the Stoic way. That's power. 6. Silence is a power move. In a world that rewards noise, silence becomes the ultimate rebellion. We live in an age where people post every thought, react to every insult, and feel pressured to voice an opinion on everything. But the Stoics believed something radically different, that silence is not weakness. It is control. It is power. To the Stoics, silence was not emptiness, it was strategy. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that just because you can speak doesn't mean you should. Epictetus taught that a wise man is known more by what he withholds than what he says. Every moment of silence is a declaration. I do not belong to the chaos. I choose inner order. When someone insults you, silence is not surrender, it's sovereignty. When you remain quiet in the face of provocation, you're not avoiding conflict. You're refusing to be controlled. You're saying, you don't get to pull me into your storm, I live in my calm. This doesn't mean you never speak up. It means you choose when, why, and how you speak, based on purpose, not emotion. That's power. The loudest person in the room may sound strong, but often it's a mask for insecurity. True confidence doesn't need to broadcast itself. It radiates from restraint. Silence is also a tool of perception. In meetings, arguments, or even relationships, the silent person is the one people watch. They wonder what you're thinking. They overestimate your knowledge. They give you the space to choose your impact. By saying less, you become more. That's not manipulation. It's influence born from self-discipline. In daily life, silence helps you reclaim your mind. The noise of opinions, headlines, and gossip fragments your focus. But the quiet mind is the focused mind. When you practice daily stillness, just 5 minutes of intentional silence, your brain resets, your priorities realign, you step out of reaction and into awareness. Even with yourself, silence is powerful. Most people are addicted to internal chatter, criticism, regret, anxiety. Practicing mindful silence lets you observe thoughts without being consumed by them. You regain control over your inner world. You build what Stoics call the inner citadel, the unshakable place inside where no insult, event, or person can reach without your permission. So next time you're tempted to fire back, to over-explain, or to join the noise, don't. Breathe. Say nothing. Let the silence speak for you. It will say you are calm, clear, and unconquered. In a world that needs constant validation, your hands becomes your boundary, your armor, your advantage. Because in the end, the world will try to provoke you. But the Stoic doesn't flinch. He pauses. He reflects. And he lets his silence speak louder than words. That is the power move no one sees coming, and everyone remembers. 7. Radical responsibility sets you free. Most people spend their lives blaming their parents, their past, their boss, the economy, and the algorithm. But here's the brutal truth behind every Stoic lesson. Freedom only begins where blame ends. The Stoics taught that until you take radical responsibility for your life, everything in it, even what's unfair, you will never be truly free. This doesn't mean you caused every bad thing that happened to you, but it does mean this: your response is always yours to own. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and modern Stoic figure, put it simply: everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That is radical responsibility, the decision to stop waiting for others to fix, rescue, or validate you. To declare, I may not control the event, but I control my interpretation. I control my response. I control what I do next. Epictetus was born a slave. He had every reason to blame others, but he didn't. Instead, he taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Every Stoic lesson you've learned builds toward this one truth: you cannot be powerful and be a victim at the same time. Blame is easy, responsibility is hard, but responsibility sets you free. Why? Because as long as you're blaming, you're waiting for an apology, waiting for life to be fair, waiting for motivation. But once you say it's on me, even when it shouldn't be, you stop waiting and start acting. You shift from passive to proactive. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what can I do with this? That shift transforms pain into power. That shift turns setbacks into stepping stones. Radical responsibility means taking ownership of your thoughts, your mood, your habits, your outcomes, without excuse. It means no more outsourcing your peace to other people's opinions. No more waiting for perfect conditions. No more blaming the world for what you haven't yet become. It's the highest form of maturity and the ultimate freedom. Because once you realize no one's coming to save you, something beautiful happens. You stop waiting and you start building. You build the discipline. You build the mindset. You build the habits. You build the life you were meant to lead, not the one you inherited from circumstance. This Stoic lesson is not about guilt. It's about empowerment. The moment you take full ownership is the moment you become dangerous, not to others, but to every excuse that used to run your life. In a noisy world obsessed with playing the victim, your quiet ownership becomes your rebellion. Your accountability becomes your armor, and your progress becomes inevitable because you're no longer hoping for better. You're choosing it every day. So remember this: you may not be at fault, but you are always responsible. Own your life fully, not when it's easy, but especially when it's not. That's the kind of freedom no one can take from you. That's the kind of power no one can fake, and that's what makes you unstoppable. 8. Most offenses are internal misinterpretations. You weren't offended, you chose to be. That's one of the hardest Stoic truths to swallow. But once you do, your emotional life begins to change forever. Because most of what offends you isn't about the other person, it's about your interpretation of what they said or did. Think about it. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you assume it's disrespect. A friend forgets to reply, and you assume it's rejection. Your boss skips your idea in a meeting, and you assume it's sabotage. But what if none of those things were true? What if it was never personal? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." In other words, pain isn't always caused by what happened. It's caused by what you told yourself about what happened. That's the danger of unchecked interpretation. You build entire emotional responses around assumptions that may not even be real. You give away your peace because of what you imagined, not what actually occurred. The Stoics taught a powerful principle here: separate fact from opinion. The fact is, someone cut you off. The opinion is, they disrespected me. The fact is, your friend didn't text back. The opinion is, they don't care about me. Most of your anger, frustration, or hurt lies in the opinion, not the fact. When you slow down and examine your reactions, you begin to reclaim power. You start asking Stoic questions. Is this true? Do I have all the facts? Am I reacting to reality or to my story about it? This simple gap between stimulus and response is where your freedom lives. Viktor Frankl called it the space where you choose your response. The Stoics called it the beginning of wisdom. And once you stop reacting to every perceived offense, you gain emotional clarity. You become less fragile, less volatile, and far more in control. Offense rolls off you. Insults don't penetrate. Criticism becomes data, not devastation. It doesn't mean you become numb. It means you become stable. Stoicism isn't about never feeling. It's about never being ruled by every feeling, especially the ones that were never even real to begin with. Let's be honest. Some people are rude. Some people will try to offend you. But the Stoic mindset gives you a choice. Do I take this personally, or do I remember that their behavior reveals them, not me? Epictetus reminded us, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, offense needs your permission. Don't give it so easily. The next time you feel hurt, slighted, or disrespected, pause. Don't assume. Don't react. Step back and investigate the story you're telling yourself. Is it fact or fiction? Is it truth or ego? Most of what you take personally wasn't personal. Most of what upset you was your own mind, not the moment itself. Learn to pause before you personalize. Master the art of detachment. That's how you rise above the noise and walk in calm, while everyone else drowns in reaction. That's real power. That's Stoic freedom. 9. You become untouchable when you surrender the need to be understood. There is a moment in every person's life when they grow tired, not of people, but of explaining themselves. Tired of constantly rephrasing their thoughts to fit into minds unwilling or unable to listen. Tired of defending their choices to those who have already made up their minds. This moment marks the beginning of a deeper freedom. The freedom that comes when you surrender the need to be understood. At first, it feels unnatural. Humans are wired for connection, and connection often seems to depend on mutual understanding. But as you grow, you begin to realize something profound. Being understood is not the same as being whole. And chasing after understanding from others can slowly erode your own clarity of self. The need to be understood is a subtle form of attachment. It ties your peace of mind to external approval. You become reactive, constantly scanning others for signs of acceptance. You speak, not because it's necessary, but because you fear being misunderstood. In this space, your energy leaks, your power diminishes. What Stoic philosophy teaches and what life eventually confirms is that peace is born the moment you let go of what you cannot control. And you cannot control how others interpret you. You can speak truthfully, act with integrity, and still be misjudged. You can live with love and still be painted as cold. You can offer your best and still be told it is not enough. If your inner world depends on how others see you, you'll always be at the mercy of their illusions. But once you surrender the craving to be understood, a transformation begins. You step into your true power. You stop wasting time explaining your soul to those committed to misunderstanding it. You become deliberate with your silence. You no longer feel compelled to correct every misconception, nor to prove your worth through argument. Your presence speaks before your words do. Your life becomes the testimony. This doesn't mean you reject all connections. It means you stop depending on it to validate your existence. It means you value alignment with your own values more than applause from the crowd. You can be kind, yet firm, soft, yet unshakable. You begin to realize that not everyone is meant to walk beside you, and that's not a failure. It's clarity. In this space, you become untouchable, not because you have become cold, but because you are rooted. You have made peace with being misunderstood. You've accepted that some people will only see fragments of you and assume they know the whole. You no longer take offense to that. You know that your truth does not need to shout to be real. Those who are meant for you will meet you without requiring translation. They will recognize the weight of your silence, the steadiness in your restraint, the strength behind your refusal to be reactive. These are the markers of one who has let go of the need to be understood and embraced the deeper wisdom of self-mastery. The world loses its grip on you when you no longer chase validation. You become immune to petty attacks, immune to gossip, immune to the chaos of others' projections. You walk through the noise without being consumed by it. True confidence does not scream for attention. It doesn't beg to be seen. It simply is. And when you reach that level, where you no longer seek to be understood, only to be true, you rise above the turbulence of human drama. This is the power of surrender. This is the freedom of inner clarity. And this is how you become truly untouchable. At the end of the day, your power doesn't come from noise. It comes from the calm behind your eyes, the discipline in your habits, and the strength to walk away without needing to be understood. In a world obsessed with validation, your silence becomes your superpower. By applying these Stoic truths daily, from emotional self-control to mastering your focus, you create a mindset that's mentally unbreakable. You stop reacting and you start deciding. You stop chasing and you start becoming. That shift alone changes everything. So ask yourself, what could your life look like if your mind obeyed you, not the other way around? What happens when you build daily mental clarity, inner strength, and the power to stay grounded under pressure? Let me know in the comments, what's one moment where silence changed everything for you? If this video gave you something to reflect on, like it, share it, and subscribe for more.